Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co-founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this is Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. This episode is brought to you by Amplified Marketing Group. They specialize in affordable mobile solutions that will get you noticed and help you retain customers. Check them out at yourphoneguy.com. Our guest today is Jan McInnis. Jan is a top keynote speaker, funny female comedian, accomplished comedy writer, and the author of 2 books. She's written for Jay Leno's Tonight Show monologue, as well as many other people, places, and groups. Radio, TV, syndicated cartoon strips, greeting cards, and even guests on the Jerry Springer Show. Yes, her parents are very proud. For over 25 years, she's traveled the country sharing her clean humor along with her unique and practical tips on how to use humor in business. Yes, it's a business skill. She helps leaders use the power of humor to connect with others, make their message memorable, diffuse tension, and get people to listen to them. Jan's keynotes are titled Finding the Funny in Change and Flourishing from Failure, Handling Mistakes Like a Comedian, have been popular keynotes throughout the country. She's spoken to thousands of groups from Mayo Clinic to the American Heart Association, the Federal Reserve Banks, Pep Boys, Remax, John Deere, Home Depot Supply, Henry Ford Health Centers, Toyota Women's Festival, and many, many more. Jan was also featured in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the Huffington Post for her clean comedy. Yes, her humor is clean and unique, and it focuses on work, family, and day-to-day life. Born in Washington, D.C., Jan was in charge of the joke of the day for her junior high school lunch table. Not surprisingly, she majored in communications at Virginia Tech, where she was a disc jockey for a local radio station. She's the author of 2 books, Finding the Funny Fast and How to Create Quick Humor to Connect with Clients, Coworkers, and Crowds, and Convention Comedian, Stories and Wisdom from 2 decades of chicken dinners and comedy clubs. She hosts a weekly podcast called Comedian Stories, Tales from the Road in Under 5 Minutes. Jan also produces a weekly show on Amazon's Alexa titled Finding the Funny, Leadership Tips from a Comedian. And Jan currently resides in Los Angeles, California. Hi, Jan, and welcome to the show.
I think we're out of time after that, Kim. Thank you for that wonderful recap of my life.
Well, you know what? It was so good. And when I was reading your bio, I'm like, nope, can't cut that out. Nope, can't get that out. We're just going to take it and read the whole thing. So it was
you could have just said, we're friends, and that would have been the best testimonial.
Well, I was trying to think, how long has it been since we met?
Wow.
Like 8, 9 years?
Yeah, 7 or 8 anyway. Yeah, way back in the good old days when there was travel and everything.
That's right. That's right. So we were in Milwaukee, and we were there was a healthcare system that was putting on an event, and we were their charity of choice, and we had brought the Mobile Day Spa, and we were doing a makeover. And actually one of the salons that helped us with that is now an affiliate salon, Gaia Salon. Okay. And you were their keynote speaker for the event. Yeah. And I remember sitting down with you. I asked you if I could buy you a glass of wine because I wanted to do what you were doing, not the comedian part, but I wanted to do the public speaking. And you were so gracious to sit down and take the time with me and just, tell me all the things that you were doing that were successful and all the things that if you had to do it over again, that you would have changed. And so, that's how our friendship flourished.
Well, you had me a glass of wine. So when you say that, Kim, I'm in.
You were all in. It was all there. But no, and so we have just stayed connected. And actually, you took Hello Gorgeous to the ends of the earth because you were in the Serengeti, right, on a safari that you went on, and you wore your Hello Gorgeous shirt. And I think that's the farthest that a Hello Gorgeous shirt had ever gone. So we need to have like a world record for that or something.
Oh yeah, no animal makeovers, but they did all enjoy the shirt.
That's right. Everywhere you went, people just looked at that and smiled because they saw Hello Gorgeous. So
yep.
So how did you get into doing comedy and keynotes? Like, how did you know that that's where you were supposed to be?
I always wanted to do it as a kid. I always thought it'd be, you got to do something with your life, right? So I thought, well, I should be a comedian. I was not the class clown, never, never the person out there telling all the jokes, but um, I just kind of wanted to. And I remember I got one person in my life told me I should be a comedian back in uh, 12th grade, senior high school. Don't they do the superlatives like best dressed and most athletic and I'm better than you and all that? Well, my friend Judy said, well, Jan, you sometimes say funny things. Maybe you should be a comedian. So I got 2 votes, me and Judy. But that was it. But, in my class reunion years later, at was the 30th class reunion, ran into her. And she's the only one when I said I was a comedian. She's like, oh, that's perfect. Everyone else looked at me like, really? You still live at home with your parents? I mean, but I just wanted to, but I didn't know how to do it. I went to college, and I remember at graduating a dinner, my parents took us all to a restaurant, and I thought, well, now is not the time to tell them I want to be a comedian. So I went into marketing for about 15 years, and I finally got up the nerve to get on stage at an open mic, and it just hit. I got hired and then started doing that with my day job, and finally kind of, moved into the comedy full time.
Well, and I love what you said. We went to lunch years ago when we were in Milwaukee, and I remember you saying that you don't want to be the headliner. Like, you want to be the person that comes in and warms the audience up for the headliner. And I think that every headliner that you would have would love you for that, because you do such a great job at that.
Oh, funny. Well, I actually was the headliner. A lot. I don't remember saying that, but I do remember. I do like emceeing and being the kind of the master of ceremonies for events and getting the audiences warmed up for that, for the different keynotes and getting people. Instead of having people move through on a conveyor belt, I like
Yeah.
having fun with the audience. And I had a week or 10 days in Cabo lined up emceeing actually before COVID. So I got to
Right.
practice all my MC skills. But I like, I've done headlining, I've done the keynotes, I enjoy the keynotes. I have to say, I really enjoy doing humor with a message, because it's fun to kind of surprise people when they think they're going to just sit down and hear the same old keynote, the same old uh, tips and whatnot from a speaker, and to get up there and just have some fun with it and and find out a little bit about the group and kick off with some jokes on them and what they're going through and what their industry is. I get to learn about all these different industries.
So how did you make that connection? Because I would have never thought, comedy at an open mic, let's go on stage and try and help businesses. So
Yeah,
how did you come together to pull because you're excellent at what you do. And I've gotten to
thanks.
be in that audience and watch you do that several times. And so how did that all come together where you were able to make that click?
It was not on my radar either. I have to say, one good thing about having a marketing job before going full time into stand up was my marketing materials were actually better than my act when I started out. And that's a little problem when you get on stage. But I had this marketing job, and I remember I was doing comedy clubs, and I remember we hired the Capitol Steps, which is a very funny singing troupe. They do a lot of song parodies and such around the country. And we hired them for a big event. I hired them with my boss. And I saw the check we gave them. And this is 25 years ago. And I thought, that's a lot more than I make in comedy clubs. And there must be a market here for corporate comedy. And all my comedian friends were like, no, 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 there's just Christmas parties, there's nothing year round. And I kept thinking, no, I think there is something. I think other companies would like this. And there wasn't a lot of women doing it. So I kind of moved into doing corporate comedy. And then in 2008, little thing called a recession hit.
Uh-huh.
And I got a lot of calls, people saying we want comedy, but we really have to justify it. We need a message. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll put a little message in. And boy, it took off. People really liked it. And so it was sort of a gradual, it wasn't something I started out 25 years ago thinking I was going to end up here. It was a gradual, and it just kind of moved on. I kept pivoting, as we keep saying these days, and pivot, pivot, pivot until you
Right.
find the thing that's really hitting.
Well, and it clicks because you're very good at it and you enjoy it, and your audience can see that you enjoy what you're doing. And so I certainly think that, as my life coach would say, you are in your area of genius. You certainly found exactly where you fit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you too, Kim. It's really been fun knowing you and then watching Hello Gorgeous take off. You've
Yeah.
just done so much good around the country. So
Well, thank you. I really do. I'll compete with you for the best job in the world because I always tell people that I have the best job in the whole world, but yours is a lot of fun too. So I think we'd be tied for first on that one. So we have to tell the listeners about the whole Jay Leno thing. Like you just don't like throw a joke and you send it to Jay Leno personally. Like how did that whole thing come up that you got one of your jokes that he used it in his monologue?
Oh yeah, he used more than one. He's used probably 60 or 70 at least.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's
but I've
awesome.
sold a lot. Yeah, not a lot, but I've sold a bunch. Maybe 50. I don't know how many it was, but years ago, back in the Stone Ages, when I started into stand-up comedy, he used remember fax machines?
Yes, yes.
Well, he had a fax machine, and you could call his assistant and send in some jokes as samples, and then if they liked them, they would give the fax number to you, and you could fax in jokes. And I've written for radio, I've written for everyone, and so I used to write for radio. Wrote about 10 jokes a day for hundreds of stations around the country, and so I would take some of those subject lines and send those into Leno. And I remember the first joke that got on the air. I wish I could remember the exact wording, but I'd been on the road doing. At this point, I was doing stand up full time, and I'd been traveling for a couple of months, and I was just tired. I got back to my condo in Virginia, and I walked in and had the check from him. They just send you a check with a little word on it, like we're using the popcorn joke or whatever. And I called his assistant and said, "Which joke is this?" And she told me, and I was thrilled. It was just like, oh my God, he used a joke. And
How
then I continued writing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I remember getting out here to LA years later. I'd been on the road for years, and I moved to LA, and I was at the LA Improv. And I was at one of these nights where everybody on the planet had something going for them except for me. Everybody had a development deal and TV here and there. And I had nothing. I'm driving home and I'm really depressed. And I walked into my little 400 square foot studio apartment, flipped on the TV, and Lena was doing one of my jokes. I thought, yay, I've got something to
wow.
do. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so it was
That's
fun.
awesome.
And I ran into his head writer years later, and he said, "Oh, Jan," I met him at the green room actually in the Comedy Magic Club out here, and he said, "Oh, Jan McInnis, you're actually one of the comics we actually read the jokes of."
Oh.
So they would read them, and actually, some people, I guess they just got tired of their jokes, but mine actually got read, so that was nice.
That's awesome. Well, and that's probably just the shot in the arm you needed to just keep doing what you were doing. You know what I mean? Just
Yes.
to keep,
Yep.
because I imagine it gets very frustrating because things don't turn over as fast as what you'd like them to. And it's just a
Yeah.
constant reinvention, right?
Yeah, it is, and you got to run your own race. You can really get depressed looking at what other people are doing, and it's
Mhm.
really easy to get in your head and go, "Oh my gosh, look what their success is." But you don't know. You really don't know if that's what they want to be doing or if they're on the path they want to be on. So, run your own race, and that's what keeps reminding me of when things like that happen.
That's right. Well, I was so excited to have you on the show, not only to share your story, but, obviously cancer is not a laughing matter. But I believe that obviously one of the things is that when you look better, you heal faster. I think there's a lot of it. But,
Mhm.
one of the things, and I write about it in my book too, it's finding the humor in anything, because I think
Right.
laughing helps your health. So speak to that. How does humor help your health?
Well, there actually have been a few studies, not a ton, but a few studies about humor and health. One said that it actually burns 1.3 calories per minute, which
Oh,
they said is like doing some light indoor gardening. I'm like, whose house is so dirty? Oh, wait, mine. And I saw Diane Sawyer had a doctor on her show years ago that said 15 minutes of laughing equals 30 minutes on the treadmill.
oh
So,
wow. I'm
hey,
in.
yeah. Yeah, I am too. It beats 30 minutes on the treadmill, I think. Little studies here and there, little things that, people have found. One study found that people with heart disease were 40% less likely to laugh. So I just tell people, forget about the studies. What does it feel like when you laugh? Can't you
Mhm.
just feel yourself feeling better?
Mhm.
I just think the fact that we have so much humor these days, when I was a kid, there was maybe 3 or 4 sitcoms. Now we've got sitcoms all over the place. We got Comedy Central. We got comedy clubs. People pay money to sit in a chair and make you uh, feel an emotion, right? We don't
Mhm.
have other, other TV stations devoted to emotion, right? Like no, there's Lifetime, the all crying channel, but
Right,
there's
right,
not
right,
like
right,
there's
right.
not a lot of other ones. So I just think people are realizing the power of humor and the power of your mindset. And certainly cancer is not something to make fun of. But when I tell people about using humor in stressful situations, I talk about you're not talking about making fun of the situation, but the things around it. Right now we're going through some stressful times with the COVID stuff. We can't make fun of that. That's a very serious thing, but you can have some fun with, what are we eating? How are, living with the same person 24/7 for months? You can have some fun with the subjects around it. You don't really quite want to make fun of that.
That's right. And I think that's it, right? I was talking earlier today about it's truly the way that you look at things. You have a choice. God gave us free will, and you can either be bitter or better. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can either find the horrible part of a situation, or you can find the funny part in the situation. And you wonder, like, how much better would our country be as a whole if we all started to find the funny as opposed to horrible? I
Absolutely.
think it would make a big difference.
We took my sister was going through breast cancer years ago, and we took her to the hospital. And I figured out the system in the emergency room. The person who's bleeding gets to the top of the list, right? My sister was not at the top. My sister was at the bottom. So I turned to her and said, Debbie, I got to cut you. We are never going to get out of this situation. So we had a lot of humor around the situation of sitting there,
That's right.
So
That's
that
right.
you find the humor, and you're right. What you focus on can really help or hurt you. And
Right.
you can focus on, and there are days you're down, but there are days that you can look at the funny things that it's doing to you, and the funny situations you find yourself in, and at least give yourself a mental break for a minute,
That's
just
right.
a minute.
That's right. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I would rather sit and laugh than to cry at a Lifetime show, because I just think you're right. It brings your spirits up. You know, I'll tell you, I feel the best after one of those sit down, belly laugh, tears in the eyes, stomach hurts, it just makes you feel better. It just makes you feel better.
And it changes the whole energy in the room. I mean, it just
Yes.
changes the energy, diffuses tension. I mean, it connects you to others. It's a great way to connect with people. You want to use a little, and when you're going through serious situations such as cancer and stuff, it's a nice way to put people at ease. I mean, people sometimes don't know how to be around you or have some fun with it. It puts people at ease.
That's right. I think so too. So, are there any rules to, like, using humor? Like, if just an individual, is there something I should or shouldn't do?
First of all, I always tell people, do the humor you think is funny. If you think knock jokes are funny, have fun with that, because you'll sell it better. You'll have fun saying it. You'll have fun doing it. First, some kind of in comedy clubs, there's really no rules except be funny. But if you're going to use it out in public, or you're going to use it in corporate situations or with others, a couple things. Only make fun of a group you are a member of. If you're bald, you can have fun with bald people. If you're overweight, you can have fun with overweight. Don't do it if you're not. It
Right,
just
right, right.
it's just you're not a member of that group, so don't do that. Watch the obvious jokes. People have heard it a million times. Like, I did a show for 500 blind merchants. I was the only sighted person in the room. And they actually had in my, I get on stage, I'm a comedian. Of course, the first thing I want to say is, hey, I'm naked. Don't do that. All right? That's not good. That's not good. But they had in my contract no blind jokes, because they said, Jan, we have heard every blind joke you can say. And they had a great sense of humor, but they've heard it. I did a show for postal workers, and all my friends were like, oh, going postal. I said, no, these people have lived through it. They've
Right.
heard every postal joke. So watch the sort of, stuff that's just gonna has been done and rehashed. People don't want to hear it, and they kind of glaze over.
Well, and so speaking of glazed over, like, what happens? Because I know myself, like, I've been on stage and there are times where I feel like I'm losing them, like you're losing your audience. So what do you do to bring them back? What do you do to re-engage? And has there ever been an audience where, like, you couldn't, like, you got off and you're like, well, that was just a flop. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything right in that set.
Yeah, 25 years, Kim. There's been a few audiences. First of all, I think we get in our head too much. For me, I found that the beginning, when I start out and I'm joking around and stuff, and I kind of get a gauge on how the audience is. Some people laughing, killer laugh. I think the healthcare group you and I were at was just fun. Some groups are not. And like have you ever tried to make a CPA laugh? They
It's not
are a little
easy.
different. I've been in front of 500 CPAs, and if you walked in, you would have thought I was not doing well, but I was, and I ended up booking some work off of it, only because people laugh differently. People are different, so don't get in your head if you're trying to use a little bit of humor and people don't laugh. That may be the way they are. You do it for yourself. Have fun. I just try to stay in my own bubble, respond to how the audience is or the person you're talking to, but don't start thinking, that little voice in your head, oh, I shouldn't have said that joke. Oh, shouldn't do that. We start to trip ourselves up. Have some fun with it and enjoy it. And like I said, do the stuff that you think is funny. Don't let other people bring you down if you say something that you think is funny. Just I've learned, and this has taken some time. Humor is a muscle. You have to practice a little bit. You can't just decide you want to do it. Practice, start looking for it now, and have some fun with it. And don't get in your head. So what? People don't respond the way you wanted them to. As long as you're not being offensive and not insulting, you're fine. Most people appreciate that you're trying to lighten the situation. They don't get mad that you're trying to use humor. They appreciate that you're okay. You're trying to have some fun with it. So I wouldn't worry too much about something not hitting the way you want it to.
So why is it so? I've seen comedians all over, and again, I love the work that you do. But why choose clean comedy? And I think it's amazing. I'm really glad that because I think the world is, it's too negative, and you don't need to use nasty 4-letter words to get your point across. But what
Right.
made you come up with the whole thing that you were just going to do clean comedy?
Well, it's kind of the way I write. And I tell comedians starting out, write clean, and then if the way you speak is with a lot of cuss words, you got to be true to yourself. I mean, Eddie Murphy, people like that, that's the way they're going to speak, and you're not going to come across as authentic. You won't work the places I work. I just decided I didn't want to be graphic and crude because I wanted my family and friends to be able to sit there and not be embarrassed. You can have a suggestive joke. People get it. Get it in their head. Make the connection in your head. You don't have to be graphic and spell things out. But for me, I just thought clean. It's harder to write clean because you really have to find the punchline. And I just wanted to, have people proud of watching me and enjoy it and not be uncomfortable. And that's the way it's more the way I write and speak anyway. So, I mean, I do cuss once in a while. I stubbed my toe the other day. I cussed. We're glad this mic was not on, okay?
And do people come up to you and say, now that they know that you're a comedian, do they come up to you and say something funny? Do people ever approach you like that?
Yes. And it's so nice talking to you because I've done hundreds of radio interviews. And when the DJ puts you on the spot and goes, so you're a comedian, tell us a joke. Like, really? You just ruined the entire setup. Instead, why don't you just ask me a general subject and I'll jump in with some material, But
Right.
So it is a little different. This is the only place out here, California, LA is about the only place when you say you're a comedian, they really kind of, oh, really? Like, what other job do you have? Because they don't think you can make a living at it. Everywhere else in the country, they think it's cool, but here they're just like, oh, okay, well, so you're a comedian, big deal. Everyone's a comedian.
Right. Especially in California.
Yeah.
So we only have a couple minutes left. So tell people where they can find more information about you and the work that you do.
Oh, for sure. Thanks so much. My website is the best place, theworklady.com. theworklady.com. Nobody can spell McInnis. So I had to come up with something. And I used to do a lot of office humor, so a lot more than I do now. So I thought, well, we'll come up with the Work Lady. So theworklady.com is where you can find me. And please send me an email. I'd love to hear from people. I will respond back. I promise.
Awesome. Well, we are almost out of time. So thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I just love you. You know that. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking time in your schedule to do this interview with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and thank you for all the great work you and Hello Gorgeous does for everyone around the country. I'm just, you're my idol there, Kim. You're great. You're great.
Well,
I love following you. Everyone here should get at least one other friend to subscribe to your podcast and check out Kim's Hello Gorgeous site and say hi to Kim. She's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If you have any questions or comments or would like to know more about the guests on our show, or for more information about Hello Gorgeous, feel free to contact me at kbecker@hellogorgeous.org or visit our website at www.hellogorgeous.org. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download our mobile app. Thank you for joining me today on Hello Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. I'm your host, Kim Becker. And until next time, stay gorgeous.
Another beautiful day, walking in the sunshine, spending the time with you. Last night we had a good time, dancing in the moonlight and loving the night away. I can't imagine what it'd be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like. I can't imagine what it'd be like without you. I can't imagine that.